We are waiting a minute for another member of the committee, so we have a quorum. Please bear with us.
All right, Tom, you're all set. We're recorded and live on YouTube.
We now have a quorum. Barbara, thank you so much.
Yep.
All right, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is now 7:18. I apologize again for the delay. This is the March 1st, 2023 meeting of the Land Use and Building Management Committee. With us tonight, we have Ms. Alterman, Ms. Smith, myself, Tom Livingston, and Ms. Ayers. Being a quorum, we also have joining us from the council, Ms. Young and Ms. Revolus. So the first item of business is public participation. Is there anybody signed up to speak or would like to speak?
There are no attendees in the waiting room there, Tom.
Okay, thank you. So we will then close public participation and move to approval of the minutes of the meeting of January 4th, 2023. Do we have a motion? Have a motion? Okay.
Motion.
Ms. Smith, thank you. Any comments or corrections on the minutes of January 4th? There, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? 2, 3. Ms. Harris?
Abstain. I was not at that meeting.
Okay, so we have 3 in favor, 1 abstention. The minutes passed. Thank you. Moving on to old business. There is no old business. New business is to review the Norwalk Seaport Association request to extend the lease for the city to provide access to the Hope Dock at North Water Street parking lot. Refer the following to the council for action. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an extension to the agreement with Norwalk Seaport Association, Inc. for the city to provide the association and their patrons with access to the Hope Dock at North Water Street parking lot from April 1st, 2023 to March 31st, 2024. All remaining terms of the agreement to remain unchanged. Have a motion? Tell you what, I'm going to move up, Ms. Alterman, thank you. I'm going to otherwise move the items just to save everybody from this. I know we have the awkward situation with some people.
I'm so sorry. My kids are just screaming in the background, so I can
That's
raise
fine,
my
that's
hand
fine.
if that's.
Okay, Mr. Lowe.
Yeah, very quickly, North Seaport Association operates the Hope from the Hope Dock to the islands. And tonight I have Jerry Tony here. If you have any questions for him, this comes up every year for the last few years. The lease is really, it's a access right to get onto the dock because the dock is attached to city property. They maintain the facility. Basically, you just need access. So again, because of the Walkbridge project, and the need for that space in the future when the bridge get to some form of construction. So we're doing this annual renewable, and we have communicated with the DOT already. There's no impact on the access this year, so we would like to ask for request to extend. I think there's a backup memo to explain the Seaport's need for the facility and what they do with it, kind of thing. If you have any questions, Jerry is here to answer any question.
This, as you say, is the same thing we've done every year.
Yeah, for last, I believe last 3 years we've been doing this.
Yeah. Any questions? All right, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? As unanimous, thank you.
This item will go to the Common Council in 2 weeks. I think it's the 14th. I think it is.
Yeah. Okay, item B.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, everybody. Good evening. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. B, review request to extend grassroots tennis lease in Nathaniel Ely Center and refer the following to council for action. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an amendment to the lease agreement with Norwalk Stanford Grassroots Tennis and Education, Inc., AKA Norwalk Grassroots Tennis, Inc., for the use of the portable classrooms at Nathaniel Ely Center to extend the lease period to December 31st, 2028 at $1 a year. Grassroots shall continue to have full operating and capital improvement financial responsibilities over the lease premises. And I'm moving that item.
Great. Oh, you moved it, right?
I moved it, yeah.
Okay. This is I guess a little bit about history of the property. Nathaniel Ely Center, which is located in Nathaniel Ely Park, generally speaking. It's the old Ely School, which is constructed in 1957, 59, so around that time. It stopped being a school probably back in the late 70s. And in the 80s, the city leased it to, the city used to run the Head Start program. But in the 80s, that was moved over to Neon at the time. And the city continued to provide the building and provide utility for the main building. And Neon runs the Head Start program. As that program expanded, the Neon constructed a 6 classroom portable classroom structure, freestanding structure on the property, but in the parking lot, on the upper parking lot. Excuse me. Through the years, since then, again, after Neon moves on and then Housing Authority took over, and eventually currently is operated by the Head Start program is operated by Odyssey and also another group. The building is no longer was no longer being used back in the early 2000s, and since Norwalk Grassroots Tennis has been in Ely Park running the tennis program for a lot of kids in the neighborhood, they asked for the building, and at the time, this is probably like 2014 or so. At the time, I was thinking about demolishing the building because it wasn't being used. With their use of the building, the cities end up executing a lease with them for 5 years with two-year options. The intent was that we collected rent for 5 years, $5,000 a year, so we end up with $25,000 in our bank account, like a better word. And the intent was to use that money for the demolition of the building in the future. So whether it's going to cover all the costs or not, but at least we have a good portion of the demolition costs. The commitment on the city part and the relationship between the city and Grassroots is that they will use the building. The first 5 years, they pay us $5,000 a year, and the city has no responsibility on repairing, maintaining, utility costs, or any of that. They will be responsible for it, so that at some point in the future, when the facility is no longer desirable in terms of condition-wise, it's their option to move on, or they want to spend a little bit of money every year to fix it, to maintain it to some point that they can still use it. At some point, it's no longer maintainable. Then they revert back to the city and city will tear it down. So it's really so that's pretty much just the financial strategy behind this. They have gone through initial 5 years, and the council approved a two-year extension, and tell out that we never executed the extension, but nevertheless, myself and representative from Grassroots Tenants start discussion what's the future of what the intent of Grassroots Tenant is for the facility, and how they want to move forward and potentially developing a new building. So with those conversations of a future in mind, we thought that since this generally speaking, this lease expires end of this year, we're looking to see if we would extend this for 5 years with some termination clause in it and stuff like that, so they would continue to use the facility. Again, there's no financial responsibility on the city's part, and they would not be paying the city $1 a year, but yet we're not paying for utility and maintenance or repair, anything like that. So it's pretty straightforward in that sense. So we're not really providing subsidies or anything like that to them. In any event, I think Sean and David is here tonight. So if you guys don't mind saying a few words to just explain what you do and why is this important to Grassroots Tenants and some of the function of Grassroots Tenants.
Thanks, Alan. I'll start. And I'm Sean Cahill. I'm the co-chair of Grassroots Tennis and Education. And we'll be introducing David Kamani, who's the director of tennis and also the acting executive director for Grassroots. The basically this grassroots started in what Springwood Park is actually the name of the park in the back, and Alan knows because we actually helped collect money and donated to help get the tennis courts built. So this building is strategically located to our kids, basically, that are mainly from the neighborhood, and also the tennis courts just walk down the back of the hill. So that's why it's important for us to maintain it and stay in operation. So I'd like to, introduce David as well. He can tell you a little bit more about what Grassroots does. If I know most of you know, but David has been with Grassroots since its inception. So go ahead, David.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for inviting us over. And we appreciate all the support we get from the city. As Sean mentioned, we have had a very good growth being next to the tennis court and using the facility that is currently there. Year round, we serve over 250 youth in tennis and education. The 6 rooms that are there are very vital, especially with what we consider our core services, which is tennis, leadership, social, emotional, and character development, and college and career readiness. We have been in good times and had a very good relationship with the city, especially Darlene Young, when it comes to the support the city gives us is when we run our summer camps, where our youth are hired by the city. They give back to the program. And we have a very strong program, which is our junior coaches program, where we train our youth to give back to the community. And in essence, they get to have kind of get some skills, especially with job readiness and skills that may help them, especially with their career readiness as well. So the facility right there that we are staying at right now, the offices, we call our offices, has been fundamental in supporting the youth. And being in South Norwalk and where it is at the moment, it has been very, very helpful. And we appreciate all the support the city gives us. And we hope down the road, we'll be able to hopefully get maybe, as the building is running down, as Alan said, it has some few leaks here and there. We're able to maintain, patch it up and keep going. But we hope down the road, we can hopefully sit down and see how we can invest into another structure that is modern and newer. But at the moment, it has been wonderful. And our youth, our staff, our board, our volunteers are grateful for the support we get from the city.
Thank you, David.
Well, thank you. I mean, you guys do a wonderful job, and we're so thankful you're there and really appreciate all you do. Ms. Ayers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to take the time to say I am a big fan of grassroots tennis. When Alan was talking about Neon, I used to be the director that ran the modules on top of Neon, and Coach would always come in and we would say, use the bathrooms and all of that. And it's just good to see you this evening.
Thank you.
I really hope that we are able to come up with a plan to make sure you get a structure that speaks to the work that you do in the community with those young people. I know you guys said 5 years down the road. I hope you guys are starting the conversation now, because 5 years is going to go by really, really, really quickly. But I just wanted to unmute to say I'm just in awe and in support, because I've seen firsthand the work that you have done for many, many years in that community with young people, exposing young people to the sport of tennis, exposing them to education and supporting them. And it's just a pleasure to have you as part of our greater community and giving back in such a way with such a quality program.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Appreciate all those sentiments.
Thank you. Ms. Smith.
Yeah, I'd just like to also thank you so much for all of the work that you've done with our kids. I think this is one of the best programs we have in the city, and you've just done a terrific job. So I just wanted to commend you for that work and keep it going.
Thank you very much.
Definitely. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for vote. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, guys. Keep up the good work. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it very
Thank you.
much.
Thanks for
Have a
coming.
good night.
Having us.
You too.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Item C, review recommendations for short-term lease with AmeriCare at 98 South Main Street. Refer the following to council for approval. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a short-term lease agreement with AmeriCare's Free Clinics, Inc., an affiliate of AmeriCare Foundation, Inc., for the continued use of a portion of 98 South Main Street to provide medical-related services to the community. Terms of the agreement shall be as outlined in Alan Lowe's memo dated February 24th, 2023. And again, I'm moving the item. And Mr. Lowe, do you want to speak to it?
Yeah, very quickly, as you know, we are still working on 98 South Main Street in terms of development strategy and plan, and there's continued conversation regularly regarding how to, as you know, the Y is not actively involved in it anymore, but we're looking at potentially another group. I think you all know that we are initial conversation with Boys and Girls Clubs. At the same time, AmeriCare has been on this property for a long time, before I guess back in the Neon days, and they continue to use the building, which is an asset to the community. At the same time, is even though for I think probably about 4 years or so, 4 or 5 years since we acquired the property from settle on the acquisition of the property, we never leased with them. Currently they're paying us about $8,000 a year. That number has been kind of somewhat dated, and we look at as building management, look at the cost for us operating building prorated to the area they use. It's roughly about 10 grand. So with that, and I just want to take this opportunity to do a short lease term with them, with a 90-day termination clause for both sides in case they find someplace new that they may want to move to, or we start our project. So both sides have the ability to terminate within 90 days. I think having a agreement, it helps us a little bit in terms of operation, because in terms of insurance requirements and operating responsibility, changing light bulbs or trash or whatever it is, that they actually outline clearly, having a relationship in writing. So regardless of what we do the building, this is what we as staff we would recommend that we enter this short-term lease, so that there's a parameter that we operate, and the use of the building, it's kind of formulated so that we are clear while we continue to find a development strategy for the building.
Great, thank you. Any discussion?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Karen Gottlieb, and I'm the Executive Director of the AmeriCare's Free Clinics. And I just want to thank Alan and the city for allowing us to function since 1994 in the South Norwalk Community Center. Since that time, we have coordinated care valued at over $34 million to 11,500 patients in the Norwalk area. It's been a great relationship, and I just want to recognize the city, and most recently for supporting our staying there until we have a place to move to. And we are actively looking for that, and committed to continuing to serve the Norwalk community.
Well, thank you so much for all you do for the community. Really appreciate it. Any discussion? Ms. Ayers?
Not discussion, just a question. It's not for the AmeriCare. I also know your work and your service, and thank you. It's more towards Alan. Are we, and I might have missed something, are we vacating all of these properties? That's why people are looking for other places to go. This is the second group that's saying they're looking for somewhere else to go. Why?
There are a couple of reasons. One is we don't know what the development, what the overall future use of the building would be, whether it's more of a community use or whether it's more of a if it's like when even with the Y, it's a certain their program strategy may be a little different. So we're not sure whether the operation will fit perfectly with the use of this building, with other activity that goes on. At the same time, is that I've spoken to Karen and other members of the AmeriCare, and they serve the South Norwalk as overall South Norwalk community more than just South Norwalk. So I think they're looking potentially would be somewhere with uptown area in the Wall Street or West Avenue area as well as South Norwalk. So they're looking around to see what other available facility is available to them. Also, I think they're looking to improve the facility in terms of the examination space and stuff, and to acquire the space that they occupy.
For me, it is concerning to hear organizations who have just served our community well, looking for other spaces. And we could continue this conversation offline.
Sure.
That's extremely concerning to me. That is even up to play. But I just wanted to ask the question. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Ms. Revelous.
So I echo Ms. Ayers' questions, but I do have a question, Karen, if you don't mind me asking you. I might butcher your last name. That's why I went with your first. I'm so sorry. But forgive me if it's my even ignorance, but I've always wondered what AmeriCare actually offers and what is the services that space and place offers. How does it differ from like the Day Street Center that's right down the street? What are we losing if we do lose you in South Norwalk? I say that in particular because of the fact of things that we may be able to partnership, not only like, with our schools, or the fact that we're thinking of another school coming into South Norwalk. I'm just wondering who and what services is it mainly happening there? I apologize because I've never been in, but I'm just wondering, I used to work for Day Street, so I'm just wondering what's the differences, for example, what's the similarity?
Yeah. Oh, Diana, I'm so happy to answer that question. A free clinic versus a federally qualified community health center, which would be the Day Street or the Norwalk Community Health Center. We are totally a free clinic. We only see patients who are uninsured. So if you have Medicaid, qualify for Medicaid, have any kind of insurance, those folks would be going to Day Street or to the Norwalk Community Health Center. We kind of service the folks who fall through the cracks. They don't qualify for Medicaid, and they're low income, making less than 250% of the federal poverty level. And so we work hand in hand with Day Street and with the Norwalk Community Health Center in terms of sending them the folks who qualify for Medicaid, which is a great insurance. But those who don't qualify for Medicaid, and that may well be because of their immigration status, have a place to come. And that's to us as a primary care medical home for them. We mostly see, we exclusively see adults 18 and over, and we try to fill the gap of taking care of those with chronic disease. So the diabetics, the hypertensives, the folks with those kinds of conditions that need regular lab tests, that need regular health care, that need a lot of medications, are the people that we see.
Do you also, that's good to know. Do you also, and you don't have to have this right now, but do you have like a layout of the demographic that you majority, you see whether?
Sure. We do. And if you go to our website, you can see that.
I'm on it. Okay. That's why.
Yeah. And if you don't see it there, I'm happy to provide it.
Okay.
We update the numbers every couple of years since they don't change a whole lot, but demographically it looks at ethnicity and race, it looks at education, it looks at size of the family, it looks at a number of different factors, and I'm happy to provide that report to the city or to this committee if you just tell me where to send it.
Okay, well, I'll definitely say me, but I'm not the only person, but I would love to see that.
Maybe you can send it to Alan and he can distribute it.
Happy to do that.
Yeah, and I thank you for your answers. Just and just thinking of the fact that we are the sanctuary town, so knowing how important you probably are to us, and the not only South Norwalk location, just in Norwalk in general. I appreciate those answers. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? 1, 2, 3. Who am I missing? Oh, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, next item. Item B, review recommendation for security access enhancement. Refer the following to the council for action. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Integrated Systems Services LLC for the enhancement of school security access control improvements at Brookside, Kendall, Civil Mine, Tracy, and Wolf Pit Elementary Schools for a total not to exceed $157,205. Account noted. Again, I'm going to move that item. Who's going to speak to this?
Ryan.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Alan.
Sorry, I'm sorry. It's just got blank.
No worries. So good evening, everybody, first of all, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. So yeah, this project I had.
I'm sorry, could you tell me who you're with?
Oh, I apologize. So my name is Ryan Harold. I'm the Safety and Security Supervisor for Norwalk Public Schools.
Thank you.
So this project is part of what was our capital request for 2022, which was approved. And right now we are looking to add wireless door contacts to all of our doors in the district. So we prioritized with our elementary schools, and specific schools, specific reasons. I apologize respectfully. I won't go into those details on why, but of course, again, with it, they're high need areas. This is just really phase one of 3 phases to do the elementary schools, the middle schools, and then ultimately Brian McMahon, the new Norwalk High, will have this capabilities already by the time it's built. So, the reality is that, with new technologies, we find ways to patch up vulnerabilities. And this is one that we feel is a large need right now. So, respectfully asking for the approval to use the funds from the capital budget.
Okay. One question. When do you expect to do all the schools? Have them open?
So really with the vendor that we're going with, it's as fast as we can get the approval for the funding. So each project, depending on the amount of doors, the amount of hubs that are required within each building, depending on Wi-Fi access and stuff like that, each anticipated job is between 4 and 5 business days. So we would really focus on getting them in during our vacation periods, over the weekends, but we can get them done as soon as we get the approval to use the funding for them.
Now, what about the rest of the schools in the district?
Yeah. So these 5, I would anticipate, would take us up until about early summer. We would then focus on the middle. There's several other elementary schools, NECC, and many of these already have local alarms, battery-powered alarms. But the wireless access gives us 24-hour monitoring, which is really important about this, as opposed to some other systems, is text notification, email notification, phone call notification of ajar doors. All right. So, one thing that makes us vulnerable, or any business organization, is human error. And the fact is that doors are left open and unattended for what seemingly are harmless reasons. So we'll be able to coordinate each door depending on what it's used for throughout the day and to specific times. So, for example, a door that we might be using to get kids out to recess, we might have a 30-second or a 60-second clock on there before we send notification. There are doors that might be their case that as soon as they're propped open, we want the security and administration to know so that we can act. Again, it acts as a deterrent to get people from coming in, but also from getting our students, the most vulnerable students, from getting out of the buildings.
Gotcha.
So the first phase would be the elementary schools. We don't have to do all of them. Obviously, Jefferson, Columbus, and Cranberry already have these capabilities. So it would be those other schools.
Great. Thank you. Ms. Ayers.
Yes, thank you. And I might have missed it. I'm sorry, Ryan. Did you say a wireless door or you said a keyless door?
These are wireless. So right now many of our buildings have
the fobs.
I'm sorry?
They have the key fobs. So you're getting rid of the key fobs?
No, okay, so this is different. Key fobs is access into the building. These are 2-point Wi-Fi door alarms. So we're essentially creating an anti-burglary, anti-intrusion system, but as well as making sure that doors are not propped open. So these will go on every exterior doors. Our key fobs are typically only at designated areas in the building, usually the main entrance, staff parking lot, and so forth. So the key fob access is very limited in the amount of doors that are on they're attached to in the building. This would go on every exterior door for, again, intrusion detection, making sure nobody's going out, making sure the doors aren't left open, that sort of thing.
Okay, so I think, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think these are the contact that you see on the exterior door when somebody opens it, it triggers alarm to go off. That's what this
Correct.
is.
Correct. So the 2 points refers to one on the door frame, one on the door. When that seal is broken, that connection is broken, we are alerted about it immediately or as appropriate per door.
Ryan, let me ask you a quick question here. This is like the current budget. How much was allocated for these improvement? And this is $157,000 cover this building. You got enough money to cover the next phase, or you're asking for additional capital budget money currently?
So that was part of our capital budget request for this year, for next year, rather. So the total allotment that I received last year is $600,000, and that's split up between our door alarms, our camera enhancements, and then some to secure some of our properties in terms of fencing.
Very good, thank you.
And this addresses, I guess, I don't know how it ended up, but the story in Texas where supposedly one of the doors was propped open and the gunman got in.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Right. Well, good.
Exactly, and that's the human error point that I mentioned before. In terms of safety and security, the one thing you can't account for, at least not all the time, is human error, and this really covers us. When it comes to school safety, rule number one is secure the building. So we could have all the systems in the world. If a door is propped open, those systems do not work. So this gives us almost eliminates that concern that we would have.
Great, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for vote. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to more security, I guess. Review recommendation for security camera improvements and refer the following to the council for action. Authorize the purchasing agent to issue purchase order to Omni Date for wireless access points at Brian McMahon and Norwalk High Schools for a total not to exceed $80,000. Account noted. I'll move that item again. I heard before we started the meeting, is this the right vendor?
So that would be Omni Data LLC.
Okay, Omni Data. Let the record reflect it's Omni Data LLC. And okay,
Yep. And then as well as I think they put FOBAC, so the agenda was incorrect. These are for cameras, camera enhancements, not wireless access points.
All right, well, let me propose an amendment to this resolution. I'll read it as amended. Authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Omni Data LLC. Is that correct? For camera enhancements at Brian McMahon and Norwalk High Schools for a total not to exceed 80,000. Account noted. Okay, I'll move that item, the corrected item. So Ryan, are you going to take this or Ms. Ayers, did you have something to say first?
Yes, I'm sorry. The word enhancement. So I need clarity. Because when I say enhancement, that's an add-on. That's not an additional. You're just adding on to what we already have.
So it really would be an enhancement. So we're there's a few projects being done or a few things that will be done with the money at each school. First, we're going to replace all of our analog cameras. We started that as a district back in 2017. That project was put on hold, but we do have many cameras that are just outdated, blurry, might be gray or pixelated. Really typical life for a camera is anywhere between 7 to 10 years. And many of our cameras are way past that. So it'll be replacing the analog cameras. It'll also be replacing broken cameras. It would also, in addition to be enhancing current cameras that we have. So for example, in some of our hallways, we have single lenses. So we already have the wiring, the network, but we only have a single lens. Some of these will be upgrading those to dual lens or quad lens. They have this more coverage in area, in some cases full 360 degrees. Some of the old cameras were 90-degree angles in terms of viewer. in terms of the view angle. The newer cameras have about 110 degrees in terms of range of view. In addition to that, we would be adding some cameras to blind spots, adding exterior cameras to certain areas. So it really is an enhancement on the system that we currently have.
You good, Nicole?
I guess the word enhancement is driving me crazy. I'm sorry, but you're actually also adding new equipment. So you're not just enhancing it, you're actually in certain areas adding new equipment.
Correct.
Okay. I just don't like that word enhancement, but okay, I'm good.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Okay, we got everybody. Ms. Alterman, are you there? Good, okay, unanimous. Okay, thank you. So moving on to the live, thank you, Ryan. I guess that's it. Appreciate it. Moving on to item F, the library, review bids for improvements at South Norwalk Library, refer the following to the council for action. One, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Titan Enterprises, Inc. for the renovation of the South Norwalk Library for a total not to exceed $423,615,000. Account to be provided. Two, authorize the library director to issue change orders on contract for a total not to exceed $42,361. I'll move that. I guess, Ms. Harris, are you going to lead us in this? You're muted. Sherelle, you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Wow, awesome. I hate when that happens. So anyway, hello, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to be before you today. I have two people.
Actually, I'm sorry to interrupt you for a minute. Mr. Huberman has now joined the meeting. Thank you, David. All right, Ms. Harris, sorry.
No, it's okay. Hi, David. So I have two people who are joining me this evening. Our board chair, Moina Noor, and Amanda Cleveland, who is the principal for Silver Petroselli, the design team who helped us, with our design. So basically, the history of the South Norwalk Library, we're one of roughly 1,689 Carnegie libraries in the United States, 85, one of the 85 in New England, and 11 in Connecticut, and 2 in Norwalk. The South Norwalk Library has lovely historic architecture. Over the years, however, it's been muted with no fidelity to restoration or maintenance of its historic significance. So the Sono Library was renovated between 2004 and 2006. It went from a really old, neglected, psychedelically colored branch of the main library to an updated and slightly more modern facility. However, when we opened, the library already looked dated. And that's something that we discussed with Silver Petroselli. We gained, a lot of square footage, but, that was, roughly 20 something years ago. And we'd like to restore the historic significance, but also look to our aging population. During the South Norwalk Library was pretty much always known for children's programs and things like that. But during the pandemic, we noticed a lot of the elderly that are coming in, and I gave you some statistics in the packet, local as well as national. So we started the renovation process, I think 2018, and we dealt with a local group, but that sort of gave us the idea that we really need to employ professional designers. So 2018 and 19, the teen room and the community room were completed as part of this renovation. And then we asked for an extension so that we can complete the entire first floor. And we were awarded that extension. Part of that was hiring Silver Petroselli and Associates, who helped us with the design. And so, you know, here we are. We're almost there. And Amanda, I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, I think you pretty much caught it in a nutshell. I think it was taking all of the information that you've gathered over the years of what the library was missing, and that's what we've tried to incorporate, as well as just doing a nice refresh.
And the information that we gave Amanda came from, you know, community meetings and, you know, community meetings and surveys. So we weren't just deciding on our own, we were listening to the community. And I have to say that I was very shocked. I thought it was going to be quite a bit of back and forth, but Silver Petrocelli surprised me. They really listened, and, you know, they pretty much got it right on the first shot. There was some tweaking, you know, back and forth. We incorporated Neil Rennie, who is part of Guardian, our building management for the city. And so when you give us the word, we're ready to rock and roll.
Can you give us a little, I think, Cheryl, you mentioned you have some some images you might share with us, or?
Okay. I have it here. I can share screen if somebody can allow me to share screen. Give me 1 second.
You should be able to share.
You just grabbing my flash drive.
What was that? Are you having an issue sharing?
Nope, I had to grab my flash drive. So give me 1 second, almost there.
Meanwhile, this is Alan. Meanwhile, there's two minor things that I want to bring to attention to the committee. In the action, at the time that I prepared the agenda, there was no account number. So somewhere along the line, we got to fill that in. So if we take the action, it will be to be determined so that I don't have the account number in front of me. The second is when this item came up, there was no action provided. So I took the liberty to add the part 2 to this action, which is the contingency amount. I don't know how much the budget is, or whether there's actually sufficient money to cover the 42,000. But typically for construction project, we do a 10% contingency. So just want to let you know that, again, I took the liberty to do this. So
Yeah, that's why I read the account number as to be determined. So that's fine. Cheryl, if you don't have it, that's
No,
okay.
I have it. I just have to,
Maybe you can talk about the timeline we're moving forward.
the right one. Amanda, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. So right now, the way the timeline is working, we have hopefully this approval. I believe we have the Common Council approval that we also need to get through. Ideally, what we would be doing is at the end of March, we would be, or sooner, getting an award recommendation letter out to Titan Enterprises so that come the end of March, beginning of April, we would then begin construction. And the construction period we gave them was 90 days. From start to finish. Right now, Titan believes that they can meet that schedule. However, they have not begun to procure anything. So obviously that is subject to change once they actually do take approved submittals and start putting in for purchase. We'll get our lead times. I don't think that there's going to be anything that's going to be an issue. Lighting sometimes can be. But obviously we have provisions in place to work around those to get something sooner if we needed to. But for right now, that's the game plan, 90 days from approval.
Will the library be closed to patrons during that period?
I believe they're planning to keep the library open, but they are closing the level that we're working on.
Correct.
I'm sorry, the second floor?
No, it would be the first floor. That's the area that's being renovated, so we'll close that, but the children's department will still be open, and the top floor may or may not be accessible. We think we may be able to store the books on the top floor. However, if we decide to store off-site, the top floor will still be accessible.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
And I do, hold on 1 second, let me just. Are you seeing each other or are you seeing the shared screen? Oh, we don't have the video on. Sorry.
Sherelle, it was up for a second and then it went down. I
It
don't
went
know if you
down,
may have
okay.
clicked stop share.
Hold on one second. Let me- Okay. So I have to, let me just turn the camera back on. Can you see it now?
No,
No.
Not yet.
Give me 1 second. There we go. Can you see it now?
Not yet.
Okay. How about now?
yes, yes.
Okay, so I have to apologize. I'm very embarrassed. For whatever reason, my computer was upgraded, but for whatever reason, I can't turn this the right way. Yeah, it won't let me. So this is, I'm so sorry.
Well, we'll look at it on our sides.
Sherelle, if you click the view tab up at the top there
Got it.
and then hit rotate view
Oh, yeah. Hang on, let's see.
counterclockwise, there you go.
Oh, you know what? Thank you. I learned something today. So I'll show you two, and you guys can tell me which one you like, and I'll tell you which one we chose. So this one is the lighter wood. The wood at present is darker. It's, you know, dirty and dingy, but it's a darker wood. We still have those industrial lights. And I just thought this was a really nice option, the curve here. And just so you know, SNU, South Norwalk Electric Works, they are paying for all of the lighting upgrades on the first floor. So this is one, and the other. Let me go with David, you're so awesome. What's wrong with it? Oh my God. There we go. And so this is the darker wood option. So same layout, just restoring the darker wood. So what you can't see is, oh, actually it's here. So in this area, there will be decorative, you can barely see it, but decorative plexi, just to protect people from each other since they're in such close proximity. If somebody sneezes, you know, it won't go on the other person, and it's also decorative, so it's not clear. So there's, you know, there's a semblance of privacy. So can you guys tell me which one you like? Do you like the darker wood or the lighter wood?
Like the lighter wood.
I'm with you. I like the lighter one too, but
And that's what we chose.
I like the lighter too.
Now seeing it again, I know I went darker before, but I think the lighter one is nice too.
I
And I know
love
you
the
picked the
dark,
lighter
but I
one.
felt like I needed to, I was like a piano recital, and because it's a smaller space, hold on, let me just go back. We just thought the lighter opened it up a bit more.
I think so too.
So, yeah. So I think Silver Petroselli did a phenomenal job. And two, you know, a lot of natural lighting for the seating, softer seating for the seniors. It broke my heart, you know, when they were coming in once we reopened from COVID, and we just have, you know, the harder seats, not anything comfortable for them or others. And this area here, and then there's you can't see it, there's also another window on the opposite side. These areas will be for private, like people who bring their own devices. So they can sit, you know, look out of the window and use their devices. So I love the use, you know, sitting in the natural sunlight.
Where are the books gonna be?
On the
Sorry?
opposite side. So the main stacks are back on
On
the,
the other side, yeah.
correct.
And we don't, yeah. So the stacks are, if here, it would be to your left.
Well, this is great. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Does anybody have any
Very welcome.
further discussion or questions?
You do great work, Sherelle. It's beautiful.
Actually, Silver Petroselli, so Amanda.
Oh, Petroselli, you do great
Team
work.
effort, team effort. It's
Team
your
effort,
vision
you
on
got-
paper.
But
all
you
do
all really
amazing work.
listened, so that was phenomenal.
You all do amazing, not to
It looks,
minimize anyone.
it
You
looks
all did
amazing. I can't wait.
Yeah,
I
looks
know, I
great.
can't either. Long time coming.
Looks great. Okay, so I'll call for vote. All in favor? 2, 3, 4. It is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate all
Thank
the
you
work.
very
Thank
much.
you so much.
Look forward to seeing it.
Yes, for sure. Thank you.
Just because of some people's schedules, I'm gonna, unless there's no objection, I'm gonna go to item H, the last item needs a vote before we go to the school construction update. This is review recommendation for smoke detector replacement at police headquarters and refer the following to the council for action. A, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order with Silent Watchman Security Services LLC to provide smoke detector head replacement at police headquarters for a total not to exceed $25,860, account noted. B, authorize a contingency allowance for a total not to exceed $2,586. I want to move that item as well. Okay.
Very quickly, this is a small item, but it's because over $25,000 is going to common council. North Police Station was constructed in 2000, started construction in 2003 and 4, finished I think it's 4. So it's been almost 20 years. It's amazing how fast time goes by. Anyway, the smoke detectors we have, it's we've been running some problem that they're failing and trigger alarm to go off. So at some point we are looking to replace them. It's just that simple. I think today's technology equipment, the life cycles are shorter, and I think it's some of it is technology. It's as good as technology is, the life of technology is also shorter a lot of times. So regardless, I mean, we are building this that have smoke detectors that's older than that, but at the same time, as for whatever reason, these things are failing on us and we need to replace it. That's it. Thank you.
Any discussion, questions? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Okay, so it is unanimous. All right, that concludes our voting items for tonight. Let's turn now to the school construction projects. Alan?
Yeah, there's a presentation. We do this for every school construction project. I'm sorry, South School, which is item G1. We for every school that we work on, we request and require our consulting team to provide energy evaluation in terms of what type of mechanical system, energy source, and all the options available to make our building as energy efficient as possible. There are many challenges when we do a new building. Compared to existing building, the energy usage may be less because we don't. It's different way. The equipment doesn't run efficiently, but at the same time, is that we are not fully heating the building or cooling the building. So when you fully air conditioning a building and heating a building, the cost of energy could go up as well. So it's very complex evaluation in terms of, at the end of the day, are we using more energy or less energy? But the strategy here is that always design the building to the maximum efficiency that we can achieve, meeting all the standards. And our typical, all our school project has to meet the state high performance building standard, which is at least silver. And to the extent that we can improve beyond that, we will do it. So with that, I think I have CES anyway, I forgot his name.
You're good, Alan.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Brad. I don't meet. This is probably the third time we meet each other, so I just forgot the first name. I know it's Park. Anyway, Brad's gonna go through the short presentation. Do you think it's about 10 minutes?
Yeah, I'll certainly try to keep it quick. So my name is Brad Park. I'm an associate with Consulting Engineering Services, CES, up in Middletown. My office has worked with Alan on Jefferson and the Cranberry schools as well. So this will be the third school now we've done with Alan and his team. And to Alan's point, we have a brief presentation here just to kind of walk through kind of the process we go through, and I'll try to keep it fairly high level. Can you guys see my screen okay now? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So as Alan said, at the beginning of a project, we're really looking to select an HVAC system that meets the requirements of the owner and the staff that are operating the building, but is also as efficient as it can be. So some of the factors that we like to keep in mind as we're selecting a system, especially, of course, for Alan and his team, maintenance and reliability is a huge component of that, providing systems that they can work on for years to come. Indoor air quality, for obvious reasons, over the last couple of years has become a heightened focus. So we're going to take that into account. And then, of course, the energy efficiency and the cost of the system. Ultimately, the cost of the system has to fit within the project budget. But we're also looking to select a system that, reduces our annual utility costs. And then finally, we're talking about noise and thermal comfort of occupants in the building. So the occupants, we always say that if we do a good job, pretty much nobody should know anything's even happening. You want the system to be operating such that no one's too cold, too warm. You can't make everybody happy, of course, but we're looking to, obviously keep a large majority of the occupants comfortable, students and staff. So those are just a few things that we keep in mind as we're selecting a system. And a couple of things that are specific to the South Norwalk School. We do have natural gas on site, which was not the case for Cranberry, but was the case for Jefferson. So we do have natural gas available to us if we want to use it. This is a brand new building, so we have a new envelope. And by envelope, I mean the exterior walls and roof of the building. And, of course, there's a public interest in sustainability. And then we have some prior experience from Cranberry and Jefferson that we can build off of as, lessons learned, so to speak. That would be something we can build on. So then I'll try to keep it fairly high level, but I'll jump into a little bit of the systems here. Ventilation for the project, we are proposing to use what we call a dedicated outside air system. This is consistent with the other schools. It's almost exclusively what we see used in schools nowadays. So really the big picture of this system is we're bringing outside air directly from the outside through a ventilation unit that's usually located on the roof. And we're directly ducting that outside air to each and every space in the building. So students and staff are getting fresh outside air ducted directly into their classroom or office, whatever space it may be. And then we're also, if we're bringing in X amount of outside air, we have to remove that same amount of air from the building, because otherwise it would just become too positively pressurized. So we're also going to exhaust air from each and every space and bring it back through this ventilation unit on the roof and remove it from the building. So the big picture premise here is that we're not mixing air between spaces. We don't have a large air handling unit that, takes supply and return from the whole building and recycles it within the building. We're trying to get fresh outside air into every space in the building. And this is where that indoor air quality piece comes into play. We also have energy recovery incorporated into this. So as we remove
Brad, let me just get a clarification.
Yeah,
I think that there's a lot of talk in the community about fresh air intake and stuff. By building code is required minimum 10% of replacement air. So are we saying that we actually 100% replace? We have the ability to do 100% replacement air, but we don't typically do that, right? Because it would not be energy efficient, because every cubic air we bring into the building require heating and cooling. That's a really big energy load. So
this,
the way you presented it sounds like we are doing 100% constantly.
Well, so we are required by the International Mechanical Code to provide a certain amount of outside air to every space in the building that is occupied. So we are providing the minimum amount of outside air that is required by the mechanical code in each space. So when I say we're bringing 100% of that air, all I'm really trying to get at here is that the air being delivered to the space through our dedicated outside air system is only ventilation air. It's not It's not air that's been recycled and reheated and used as heating and cooling as well. This is strictly ventilation. Our VRF system that we'll get to in a minute is handling the heating and cooling load. So there's some more air with that system, but this system is just handling ventilation. So it's, you know, and we're bringing in the amount of air that we're required to by the mechanical code. That's ventilation. For the what we call large volume spaces, which would be like the gymnasium, cafeteria. In this building, we also have a media center and a large multi-purpose room. Each of those spaces are kind of double height spaces where they're, you know, they take up two-story volume inside the building. For those particular spaces, we provide a dedicated air handling unit on the roof for those spaces. The biggest part of that is having a unit that is accessible for the facilities team. We don't want to locate that unit above a ceiling within within a cafeteria or something to that effect, because it would be difficult to access because it's 2 stories in the air. So each of those spaces will have their own air handling unit on the roof. And then finally, our heating and cooling for the majority of the remainder of the building, classrooms, conference rooms, that sort of thing. We're using what we call a variable refrigerant flow. Oftentimes you'll hear shorthand VRF. What this system is a series of indoor units that are connected through refrigerant piping to an outside condensing unit. Some people are familiar with residential versions of this system. You know, you hear the word mini split thrown around, where you see a unit up in the wall in the living room. This is kind of just a much bigger commercial version of that, where we have one unit in every classroom, and it's connected through a series of small copper refrigerant pipes to a condensing unit located, in this case, would probably be on the roof. The benefits of this system is every classroom gets its own unit, so each classroom can have its own temperature control. We usually limit how much they can increase or decrease the temperature, plus or minus a couple degrees, so you don't have huge swings between spaces, but every space does have individual climate control. It's very efficient. These systems have come a long way. They've become very popular. They're able to vary their capacity very well. And ultimately, they're a very efficient system. This is what is providing, predominantly is there to provide air conditioning, but these are also heat pump systems that have the ability to provide heating to the space as well. So for all of those reasons, that has been what we've been talking about with Alan, and is what we have in Jefferson and Cranberry as well, in terms of our heating and cooling system. And that's what we're proposing for this building here.
So generally speaking, this building heating cooling will run off a heat pump system equipment.
Right. So the VRF has the ability to heat. We've been talking to, we had a follow-up meeting with Bill Hodel and George Sevick a couple of weeks ago. So the heat pump system, we are going to back up with having gas-fired boilers in the building to provide heat as a secondary source of heat. The heat pump heat pumps work well at milder temperatures. They've gotten better. They do work well at lower temperatures now, but they become difficult because you can't really build in any redundancy to those systems. So whereas with the boilers, we can have 2 or 3 boilers in the mechanical room, so if one goes down, you always have heat. So we do have a primary heating system that consists of boilers, hot water piping, and perimeter radiant panels along the exterior wall in the classrooms. And then the VRF is predominantly there for air conditioning, but because these systems are also heat pumps, has an ability to heat, especially on milder days when you want.
Yeah, so the reason I asked this question, there's a reason to my madness here. Generally speaking, this building would be electric building, right? Is that what it is? And the gas-fired boilers are really supplementing for those extreme cold days where a heat pump, which is very energy efficient, will not be able to produce the heat that you can capture from the atmosphere.
Correct.
And then in order to supplement it, that's when the boiler comes into play, and natural gas is being used for that. So, but generally speaking, the heat pump runs off electricity, and most of the energy that the building is going to use is based on electric and not so much gas. It's only as a supplement.
Are you able to project? I know it's a really hard question, probably, how much we would need that supplemental boiler? I mean, how often would it be used given the current environment, if you will?
Sure. So generally, it depends. So Tom, there are, and I can get into another slide here. Really, this one here. There are, and we can talk about this some. We can do it a few different ways, Tom. So what you see here, I have options 1, 2, and 3, and this is kind of what we reviewed with Alan, and then also followed up with Bill Hodel later on. If you take option 1 is the base option, and I'll get a kind of long-winded answering your question here, but the base option is really that we're using gas we're using the VRF for heating and cooling in the classrooms, and the gas is mostly a backup. In that instance, we are able to do a vast majority of our heating with the VRF system. The gas system is basically there for backup and redundancy. VRF system, the heat pump systems nowadays generally perform very well. You can heat with them down to below 0. The only thing that happens is they do become a little bit more expensive to operate than a gas-fired piece of equipment once you get down to those super low temperatures. Their efficiency is inversely proportional to the outside air temperature, so as it gets colder, their efficiency is reduced. So how we generally like to set up the building, Tom, is that on your milder days, which this winter has been almost the entire winter with the exception of a few times, you're really using your heat pump to heat the building, and then the gas is there for those usually, teens, single-digit days, which again, this year has only been a handful of days. So, I mean, on a year like this, we're probably using the heat pumps 90% of the time, If you get a real cold winter, you might use your gas a little bit more. But the benefit of that is that you have flexibility there. So you have kind of protection when it comes to, utility costs. Obviously electrical rates, there's been a lot of buzz about them being increased by Eversource, at least to residential customers. I'm sure commercial customers will see increases as well. So gas prices obviously are a little bit more volatile as well. So having the ability to use the gas when gas is cheaper, or the electric when the electric's cheaper, is also a nice benefit. I don't know if does that answer your question okay, Tom? Or?
Yeah, well, let's keep going to the slide, because I'm curious where we're ending up.
Okay, so you could go all the way to an all-electric building, and we have done several of those recently. The biggest downside to that, so the biggest change to that, is you're using electrical resistance heat as backup. So if your heat pump is not able to operate, you really need to get into a situation where you're using electrical resistance heat as backup heat, which can become a little bit more expensive. But the primary goal there is to completely remove the gas. So if it was an initiative of the community to completely remove gas from the building, that could be an option. It just comes down to a utility cost issue.
Alan, did you just say this was an all-electric building?
I believe this is pretty much mostly. I think the option we're looking at is number 2, right? Is that what we're designing to?
Sure. So yeah, I would say it's a hybrid, Tom. It's a mostly electric building. Again, we have gas-fired boilers as our redundant heat source. Number 3, an all-electric building would have no gas in the building whatsoever. So your backup heat would have to be done through electricity.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me as temperatures get warmer and warmer, we'll be using less backup, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The only caveat to that, Tom, is I 100% agree that we are getting milder winters for sure. Dave, I'll get to you in 1 second. And the only caveat to that is, while we're getting milder winters, we also are getting more extremes. So, a couple weeks back, we had, I guess it was probably about a month ago now, we had those mornings that were, 10, 12 degrees below 0. So you're getting kind of big extremes, but overall, definitely milder. Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Brett. A question on the hot water. Are you proposing then, are you proposing centralized electric water heaters, or are you talking about on-demand heaters at each location?
So we have been talking about doing centralized water heaters, and that's been a conversation with Bill Hodel. We generally prefer to do centralized water heaters. The on-demand, we could alternatively put an on-demand water heater in each bathroom group and things like that, but you end up with quite a few of them throughout the building, and it starts to become a bit of a maintenance headache just because you can end up with
There's a lot more failure points at that point, at that area. I asked the question because in the mostly electric, you have no boiler plant. So then do you end up trading and not having a boiler plant to do your hot water as well to electric, which I think is another drain on the system from the electricity standpoint. That's all.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
So just looking at this again, so all electric is the lowest overall energy usage, but it's not the cheapest. Is that what we're saying?
Correct. Yeah. And I think this kind of explains it on a high level. So base option is we're using gas. Mostly the number 2 is we're using mostly heat pumps with a little bit of gas. And then number 3, all electric is all electric. So
I'm sorry, let me go interrupt. This is for operating costs, right? Not so much capital costs, right?
Well, there's a couple different categories here. So my first line item there that says first
cost. Annual cost. Okay, first. I'm sorry.
Installation. So the base option of using more gas, we have a little bit more hot water piping and things like that needed in the building, so it costs a little bit more to install up front. As you can imagine, if it's all electric, we get rid of our boiler plant. We can save some money there. And then to Tom's point, a very important piece to this is annual energy use. The all electric is the lowest to his point because the heat pumps are operating more hours of the year. And electric heat is actually technically 100% efficient. It's just that you pay a lot more for the utility input costs. So electricity per unit is quite a bit more expensive than natural gas. So then if you go down to the annual energy costs, so the all electric might use the least amount of energy, but it actually costs you the most to operate. So it really comes down to what is most important to the building owner in terms of is their primary goal to reduce their annual energy operating budget as much as possible, or is there a desire to reduce your annual gas usage as much as possible?
But if we go into, Alan, correct me, I mean, we're going to explore solar with this as well. With this building, do we get that 10% offset back or greater to be able to, if all electric is the better way to go, do we get that offset by using solar as well? Does that help?
I think there's a totally different calculation in the sense that I can talk about solar a little bit later on, but at the same time, it's the energy efficient of the building. I don't think we're going to generate. These are urban sites. We have certain limited ability to generate green power on the property. So we never going to be generate enough to totally go on electric.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking of enough. I'm thinking, do we generate enough to make up for that 10% more cost of the energy? Do we get, do we get, even though we pay 10% more for the electric, do we get 30% back with solar, which gives us a net gain at that point?
But it's separately, I mean, regardless of which system we would generate so much electricity. So I don't think the two are tied together. I'm not sure how to explain this. If you have so much solar panels on the property, you're going to generate so much electricity. So it's not really offsetting anything. You're going to generate that electricity. It's not like it'll be better. If you save in 20 years, you save $400,000. That's what you're going to save, right? So whether you have a restrict option 1 to A, B, or C, it doesn't really matter because it's a dollar savings. And meanwhile, the other one, it's energy consumption. We want to reduce that as much as possible. So just because you generate energy doesn't mean that you make it more energy efficient. You don't make it as energy efficient. I'm not sure I explained this properly. I think it's different. I think you're talking about something a little different in terms of a solar generation to how the building needs to be energy efficient, regardless of whether it's solar energy or not.
Okay, thanks.
Right.
Yeah.
Diana, excuse me, Diana, you had your hand up.
I do, thank you. I have 2 questions quickly, just wondering.
Sure.
For something for a building that's all energy, sounds great, but we do have a space in place here in South Norwalk where we get like notorious blackouts. Do we have generators or any backup system if that area goes through a blackout, power
So,
outage?
I think
And I might have missed that, but just
no,
wondering.
you didn't. No.
And the second question from the air, the withdrawing of air outside of the building. I know we've gone through, Alan, you've done a lot. I know we've gone through this, but I personally still think there's an air quality issue within that area. Is there filtration through that HVAC system that I also may have missed? I'm watching, I screenshotted it and everything, but those are my 2 questions. The possible filtration of the air coming in, if we would use an HVAC system like that, and the backup to an area that's really like kind of notorious for random blackouts.
Sure.
Sure.
Good question.
I think, Brad, if you don't mind, can you answer the question about air filtering?
Yeah, so good question, Diana. We do have enhanced filtration in these units. So it's something that even Alan noted, we have to design to Connecticut high performance standards. They require some of these things anyway, but it's also just best practice, especially being a school. So we do have a couple levels of filtration inside the units. That we have an initial filter, which is good for taking out large pollen and things like that. And then we have a filter after that that's a finer screen that takes out, finer particulate and things of that nature. So yes, we absolutely do have filtration in the units.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I
And
think
the
one of the things
power-
we always talk about sometimes during like whether it's dust or exhaust from cars and things like that, the air quality inside these buildings in today's standards and requirements are probably better than outside air quality. So you can walk outside the building, maybe a little airy, but at the same time, it's that the air quality itself, when you go through, we're counting particulates in the air, the inside air, it's better than outside actually.
I could agree. That's why I was wondering, in pulling outside air in,
Yeah.
how do we filtrate that, especially within that location and the industries we have around that. And then the other part was like, if because I know it's just a possibility, but if we were all electric, basically, are there generators? Is there backup basically for, that's my other question.
We have conversation about generator for elementary school regularly. Generally speaking, we will have a generator, but it's not supporting the entire building. We typically nowadays we do a generator. One of the biggest problem, not biggest problem, really doesn't happen to us often. It's when you lose power in the middle of winter and for a consecutive day, like a week. And the only thing we cannot, as soon as the power outages, the school's closed, right? So really, there's no kids in the building. It's not a city hall. We're not providing full generation for the building. City hall at 100% power, backup power, so that the building is fully operational. But for school, as soon as we lose power, if there are kids in the school, they be going home and stuff. The building be closed down, and certain IT stuff. We have UPS systems and stuff like that, and all the emergency light. We will have a generator to provide emergency lighting, power for. Right now, what we do is power for the boiler heating system. So to maintain not to the normal temperature of 72 degrees in the wintertime. It's really like minimum enough that we can maintain building temperature so that the building doesn't freeze. One of the biggest problem we have, the concern we have, is that when you have a major blackout for multiple days, it's the sprinkler system. That's the biggest problem because water freezes and expand and breaks pipe. Everything else we shut down, alarm system, we can put battery backup powers and stuff like that. Is providing enough heat that we can maintain minimum temperature in the building. But then, we are not putting a generator to provide full lighting because the cost of that generator, it's very expensive. So we will have a generator, but enough to cover protecting the building from freeze and water damage. That's the primary objective.
I can understand that. Thank you so much.
Sure.
So
And-
I want
and
to
just
go. I
to-
want to go.
Go ahead, Tom.
What did you want to respond to that first?
Just one last point to Diana's point there is the one nice thing about having gas in the building as a backup source of heat is it makes what Alan was discussing much easier in terms of providing freeze protection. It's very easy. Boilers don't take a lot of electrical energy, so you can back up a boiler pretty easy to help keep the building warm. If the building was all electric, it makes backup power much more complicated because now you're backing up an electric source.
That's
Yeah.
what I would have think. That's exactly where I was thinking is
Yeah.
that. So thank you for saying that as well, because that's what's in my head. Mhm.
As everyone knows, I'm not an energy expert and stuff like that. I don't understand all this stuff, but I do have some general understanding of it. I think there's conversation about not using gas and stuff and things like that. I think at these buildings that we're doing, it's really the gas is using as backup. But different between electricity and gas is that gas is a natural raw source of energy. Electricity generated, I think, in ISO New England, I think 40%, currently 40% of our electricity generated by the gas. So even if you use all electricity, it's actually, again, 40%, I have a whole breakdown of this, but about 40% plus, it's gas generated. So when you talk about cost-wise, when you can just directly burn gas to generate heat versus you go for gas to generate electricity to get to the building, that cost typically are higher. So like Brad says, I mean, if you use all electric and then you don't use gas during an emergency, you need a lot more electricity to run the building. Unlike we have some gas as a raw material to burn instead of using electric. You don't need as much electrical generation.
I want to go back to Brad, your slide before. So is there any way of quantifying in dollars the additional cost of all electric versus mostly electric? I mean, is it 100?
We can. We're still a little early on in the process, so it takes some time to run those types of numbers, but we can put something together.
I'd be curious to see that, just to sort of conclude my analysis. Thanks.
It's also interesting. I don't know how it affects design, but when the two commodities, electric and gas, I think, and oil, petroleum products, they all relate to each other. So I think when you have two sources of electric and gas, it give you more options in terms of if the gas line has issues, whether it's wherever it's coming from, or production of electricity is a problem, and that market go crazy. You do have more flexibility in terms of capturing the reasonable financial management.
All right, let's get going.
Okay.
We've already used up Brad's 10 minutes and questions.
Just a quick note on PV because Alan did bring it up. We have I'll give Eddie some credit to this. The building is pretty compact and pretty efficient in terms of it's basically a 2-story volume with a very large flat roof. So there is a pretty good opportunity for solar on this building. I know Alan's already got it in the works with Verigy to eventually add the panels to the roof. So I did do some really quick calcs before the meeting. The roof is about 52,000 square feet, but once you take out rooftop equipment, paths for walking, things of that nature, my assumption at this point, you get around 40,000 square feet of usable space for solar panels, which is actually quite a bit. And based on some quick numbers, you could offset upwards of 70% of the building's energy use just with your PV that's on a roof, which is actually really impressive. That's one of the better numbers I've seen recently. And a lot of that comes down to just how much area we have on that roof, which is pretty good here. So
Right, I don't want to contradict you, which I am going to do, but I think Eddie's here, but I think the total building is only what, 80,000 square feet. Is that what it is? And two-story building only give us about 40,000 square foot of maximum of square footage on the roof. So you may be a little bit off there. So
no, well, Alan, the difference there being is all of your two-story spaces only account for floor area on one floor. So so one of your levels has more roof. So your square footage might be, I think we're around 90,000, right, Eddie? Give or take.
Yes. Yeah, we're about 91,000.
Right. But because of those two-story volume spaces, Alan, you don't take into account that area on the second floor, like in the gymnasium, right? So we ended up with a net roof area of around 52,000 square feet.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, the footprint of the building, if you will, is about 54,000 or so.
All right. I don't want to go into full detail too much today, but I just want everybody knows that there is some challenges here. There's no question that we are, as part of this committee and the Common Council requirement, that every one of our school building that we design right now will have a rooftop solar system. I think that's a given, and that's what we will do. On this particular project, we are looking actually at potential ground-mounted system because there's a portion of the property, the upper portion that's flat. We are looking, because there's no trees there now, so we don't have to cut down any trees and stuff like that. So I think we're looking at potentially putting a ground-mounted system upper portion, because it's a little hard to get up there anyway, because the elevation up there is 70 foot above the lower portion of the property. So we are considering that. So we're going to have potential additional solar panel over there. We also are going to look at carport system, but at the same time, it's that the one thing I'm a little concerned about is that if we do that, the whole property would be covered with solar panel, and the concern is that it no longer looks like a school. It looks like a school on a solar farm. So there's something that we will consider. We will continue to look at, but minimum is the roof, and also we're looking at ground-mounted upper portion and potentially a carport system on the bottom portion. The one challenge, biggest challenge we have is that this is not Eversource, it's Second Texas District. And they, generally speaking, do not have a incentive program because the electrical rate, according to them, it's lower than what Eversource charges. So they don't take the money and give it back to you for incentive. So they do not have a program, but I have been working with them to see whether they want to do a special project with us to provide with some funding. So in terms of incentive-wise, generally speaking, right now there's no incentive money. So which will make the solar component of this project more difficult in terms of financially. The other piece is that the power purchase agreement, because they are a municipal utility company, it creates another challenge whether a power purchase agreement can be worked out because they are not Eversource. We are going to look at those things, and we and together with Verogy, we provide summary of what we can and cannot do, and we will continue a conversation with Second Texas District to see whether they will come up with some money to do a special project with us. There's a potential, instead of going through Verogy as a turnkey solar developer, we may actually end up building the system ourselves and have them build it for us, but yeah, we will own it instead of leasing it from them. So it's a complicated conversation, evaluation that we're working on, but we are looking every way to generate as much green energy on the property as possible.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on this item, Alan?
No.
All right, thanks, Brad. Appreciate it. Any questions? I'm sorry, before you go, any questions from the members of the committee? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
You.
All right, so Alan, quick update on school construction projects.
Yeah, we got Mike and Dan. You can do it very quickly. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Dan, can you bring the presentation up just so that I don't drop everyone out of the meeting here.
Sure, let me pull it up on my other screen here. Can everyone see the screen all right?
Yep.
Yep.
Here we have the master construction program schedule overview, and we'll go into the detail of each of these projects.
We're at Norwell High School. Oh, no, that was Norwell High. Go ahead. It's Cranberry.
The first one in the update is Cranberry. So, you know, at this time, the construction manager, Newfield Construction, all of the exterior walls have been installed at this point. The CMU is up everywhere. We're just waiting for brick veneer to continue as we go through the project. You know, when it's been real cold, the mason contractor has moved inside, and when it's been, you know, warmer, they've been working outside. And you know, the favorable mild winter that Brad was talking about has been very favorable to the project.
Can you say what CMU is?
Concrete masonry units. Dan, do you mind pulling the presentation up that I had emailed? I think this may be the. Is this the one from the email?
Let me double check. This is the one I had open, but I know you sent.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
While he's doing that, just for members of the committee know that I had an opportunity to look at the building with Alan a couple weeks ago. It's really impressive what they've done and what they're doing there. Looks great.
Thanks, Tom. Hold on, Dan. Let me share the version I have. I may have.
Yeah, this is the one you sent just before the meeting.
All right, I may not have. Hold on, just bear with me for 1 second, just because there's some updated photos and.
Meanwhile, I just want to talk about it. We are Newfield Construction. It's I have asked them to provide us with a commitment by end of April. I think I mentioned this many different times before. By end of April, to give us a commitment that we will be finishing on time this year. I mean, there are different things that affect opening of school, completion of the project, with supply chain issues, which is a term that's kind of new to all of us. As well as, you know, sometimes they're contracted that fail to perform and create a problem for the overall project. So by the end of April, they will tell us that, you know what, everything that's going on, we will finish on time. And what that does is trigger us to get work with the school community to teachers to pack their stuff. We move as soon as school's over, beginning of summer, and we're going to start demolition of the existing building. Without that commitment, we're not going to start demolition of the existing building. So that's kind of very important kind of benchmark. And right now, again, there are challenges. One whole supply chain issue. The generator that we are providing Cranbridge School, it's being delayed, but we have negotiated and worked very closely with the manufacturer and the distributor in New England. They will provide us with a portable generator on site, and the electrician has agreed to wire it up and all at minimum cost to the city, because they are holding themselves some response for this delay. It's an industry-wide issue. I understand that this is happening to a lot of different communities, different school projects. Major construction will require generators. We ordered it on time, but at the same time is that the business is very challenging. So, but at the same time, it's financially we are pretty much covered up, protected, because they have lived up to their responsibility. The other thing was IT equipment that me and Mike's working on. There's another issue with supplying, giving us the head-end equipment for IT, communication equipments and stuff, which affect us in terms of like getting the building startup and testing our equipment and things like that too. So we are looking at an alternative way to get it set up. So strategize how we can get the work in place, so that we can open on time. So again, there are many challenges. So we are working on each one of them, and so far we find solution to each one of those two problems that we are facing with. But give us another month and a half, 2 months, and we will get the assurance that we can or cannot move forward to completion.
Thanks, Alan. So the update for the project didn't save properly in the file, and my apologies for that, but I can give you an update just from the site tour that I was on today, or yesterday, actually. The contractor, like I was saying, all of the exterior walls that are masonry and clad are installed at this point. The glass and glazing contractors installing the windows and storefronts throughout the building. The MEP rough-in is nearly complete on the first floor. In the left image that you see here, this is one of those VRF units in the library. You can see the sprinkler piping in black, and you know, the dangling wires will be for lighting in the future. That'll be installed once the acoustical ceiling is installed. Sheetrock has started in the majority of the building. They're working through the building. The roof is about 90% complete at this time with the permanent roof. And you know, everything's moving along real well. In certain areas, finishes have started. They've been started to install ceramic tile in the bathrooms, and the rough-ins continuing on the second floor. The first floor is more ahead than the second at this time. And you know, just in the photo to the right, I shared this photo just because it's, you know, I think it's going to look great when it's done. You know, this is an accent wall within the library media center space, and then above you'll have the nice natural wood exposed roof deck. So, you know, as Alan said, there has been challenges with the project regarding supply chain, but we've been effective thus far in, you know, managing that and getting this project to the finish line.
And one other thing I want to note is that as far as design, we are City of Norwalk as a community. We are, when we do the rest of the basic building, it's very basic. It's brick and mortar kind of thing. And we do want to not waste money, but you know, where the critical area, like the front of the building, like the main lobby and the common space, that's where we spend a little more money because we are very conservative in terms of like detailing. You know, there's not a lot of detailing trims and stuff like that all around the building, but we want to focus on what money we have in order to provide aesthetically improvement. Is very limited, and then limited, like, again, this is just as a stone, but it's just a veneer. So it's not a huge expense, but it's something we spend a couple bucks on, and then wood ceiling there, but the rest of the ceiling is not like that. So there is finding the balance in terms of financial responsibility. That's what we try to do.
Does anyone have any questions on Cranberry before we move on through the presentation?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. The same schedule for Cranberry that has been presented. Nothing's changed to this. So, you know, we'll be ready and open, or like Alan said, we'll be providing an update, you know, a little later based on our ability to open. And then, you know, should there be no changes, you know, the demolition of the old Cranberry School will start this summer. All right, Dan, this is you.
Yeah, Mike, I'm gonna jump to, if you could stop sharing, I'll share mine. I think something, like you said, happened with the file, so I think my updates are missing, but I do have them handy. So here we go. We'll jump into Norwalk High School. So late 2022, we submitted our application for special permit to Planning and Zoning. We had a meeting in January and a follow-up meeting with P&Z on February 1st. At that meeting, the special permit application was approved with some conditions based on the comments received from the different departments, whether that be traffic, mobility, and parking, the DPW. And as of right now, we're continuing to work with those departments to make updates and satisfy their requests. Design development drawings and specs were completed in December. The design team's currently working on the construction documents. Those are expected to be completed and issued by late July of this year. Following the completion of those design development drawings, we completed our updated project budget estimate and met with the Office of School and Construction Grants and Review on January 25th. That's our second meeting with the state. We do have one more meeting before we go out to bid, and that will be after the construction documents are complete, and we'll review the project budget and documents with them later this year. As far as our community engagement and continuing to coordinate with the current school and administration, on March 9th, Gil Bain, the construction manager, is scheduled to present an updated logistics plan to Norwalk High School and P-TECH administration. Also, later this month, the architect is scheduled to attend and present to the school governance councils for both Norwalk High School and P-TECH on March 23rd. And to the right, we just
a couple of notes. For last 3 months, the design team has worked very closely with the school community, with the teachers and administrators to resolve all the miscellaneous concerns and issues, whatnot, regarding space allocation, proximity to each other, and how many science room that has fume hoods and all the other stuff. It's a long process. I mean, we wish we could have done it quicker and faster, but it is what it is. We want to make sure everybody is. Originally there was a lot of concern, but through the process, we have reached resolutions and compromises that they may compromise, we may compromises, and work together to put everything behind us and continue to our next phase. One other thing we're doing too is that between project team with Mike and Dan and I, we are going to the Board of Education. I think it's March 17, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to do a project update similar to what we're doing here with a little more detail, so that the full board can see all the effort behind the scene, so they have full understanding where we are in terms of these projects. So there would be, we go to the facility committee regularly. The committee, I believe, is only typically only 2 or 3 members that shows up at the meeting. So we want to take the opportunity to fully advise them so that they have full understanding of where we are with each one of these projects. So there's tie in between the Common Council as well as the Board of Education through our presentation. Okay.
And that Board of Ed meeting that Alan's referring to is next Tuesday, the 7th.
Oh, next Tuesday, the 7th? Okay.
Yep. So, and here's just a zoomed out image looking across the parking lot from the football field at the main entrance, the Norwalk High School wing and the P-TECH wing to the right. And just schedule, generally speaking, late this year, December, going into January, we'll start to see construction out on site. So any questions on Norwalk High School before we jump to South Norwalk? So moving along, South Norwalk Elementary School. Schematic design phase for the project was completed in January. There were schematic level drawings and narratives issued to the construction manager. At that time, they completed a complete constructability review, as well as a project estimate. Through those efforts, we were able to bring the project back into budget. The initial estimates were a little higher than expected, but through some value engineering efforts, we were able to bring that down. The architect's currently preparing the design development documents and specifications for the project, and that's scheduled to be completed in April of this year. During this phase of the job, we're meeting with several different departments in the city of Norwalk. We've had meetings recently with planning and zoning, traffic, mobility, and parking, as well as the Department of Public Works to review the initial plans for the project. This helps streamline our approval process when we start to submit for the special permit. On February 14th, the project team met with the State Office of School Construction Grants and Review for the schematic design review of the project. After this meeting, we'll have another design development review and then one more review with them before we go out to bid. And as far as community outreach and on this project, there's been 2 community outreach events, one in December, another one that was held in February. And we do have another one planned for May 4th of this year. And to the right here is kind of a schematic level image showing the layout of the site, the lower parking lot down here, another parking lot with the bus drop off, playgrounds in the back, and kind of the general orientation of the school.
This drawing is a little different from what this committee has seen previously, because we are continuing to, the design continue to evolve. The original design that you thought you would look at probably like 2 months ago, the building is slightly shifted up, was a little further up and more horizontal. One of the problems we found was that because the ledge in that area, pulling away from the ledge would save us some money. So we rotated a little bit, you know, to the down and right and to the left. And also, it was a 3-story building before. We made it a 2-story building. For various reasons, it works better, reduces costs and stuff like that. So again, so don't be surprised when you know, when you look at something a little like 2 months ago, a little different from what you see in front of you. But generally speaking, it's the same location on the property. Again, it's from a 3-story to down to 2-story, which is a little nicer in a sense. Our outdoor learning area, it's actually going to be on the ground instead of on the rooftop because of different reasons. In terms of, we like the idea originally, but at the same time, the cost of getting it done on the rooftop and the maintenance portion of it, the snow and stuff, is somewhat a problem. But since we're doing 2-story building, we actually have an area on the ground area that we can provide outdoor learning space on the ground level.
Hey, Alan, I just wonder if you guys have thought more about, and I know this is a big thing, what we talked about a couple weeks ago about, you know, is it possible to switch the orientation to South Main Street versus, forgot the name of the road behind. I know you're pretty far along in the drawings and in plans. I'm just curious about that.
I think that the main entrance is facing the parking lot. I think that's typically what we do. I think it's similar to when I said before, when like the Cranberry School, most of the facade is very basic, but for this one, we can make it 3 sides of the facade more interesting, which is the South Main Street side, the parking lot side, and the side of those 2 facades probably the predominant facades. And the third one would be where the on the left-hand side faces Oxford Street, because the buses stop there, so you want that side to be well designed. I mean, more design elements in it. And the north side is probably the plainest one facing the back of the school. So we always try to. So for this project, we will be looking at, again, the 2 facades in South Main Street and the main parking lot to the primary facades. And then the second level would be the bus drop off. The basic one would be in the back.
I was thinking more in terms of, you know, having the bus drop off on the Main Street side versus the Oxford side.
The main is actually from the bottom. I don't think we could because the flattest portion of the site is actually on the south. So the parking lot is going to be on the southern portion of the property. So when the parent drop off and stuff like that, it's going to be on the southern portion of the building.
You know, maybe I'm not being clear. I was thinking, you know, how we have the buses coming in on the Oxford side, right?
It's only 2 buses.
Yeah. Okay. I guess that's the answer. Because, you know, would it be, again, I know we're along the process. If the buses came in from South Main Street, would that be easier for, you know, transportation?
Let me think about it. Let me bring back to the. I see what you're talking about. There are great changes between South Main Street. I'm not trying to find a reason why we cannot do it. Let me look at it. we can look at there are grade changes on the street on South Main Street that could be challenging. And also the other problem is that we are potentially looking for additional land acquisition. I don't want to go into too much, but until we are sure, I can't design it based on that.
Gotcha.
I think I had to kind of like do it because we're moving forward. So we need to design to be adaptable for both options. But at the same time, is that I can't put all this energy and effort into design something that we're not sure how little we're going to get, and I don't have the time and luxury of time and money to redesign things. So I think this is a safe design for us. We can continue this when we get to the access, we don't have to change anything around, we can just improve the site stuff versus sliding the building. We change the whole all the design work that we have done.
Okay, thanks. Diana, you had your hand up.
Yeah, actually double back on your question. We have had conversations that the majority of these kids will probably not be bus drop off or bus users. They'll probably be parent drop off and walkers. So how does that scale to the entrance, the moving for buses when your majority of your students will be walkers or drop offs?
We are
kind of, there's part of the, Alan, there's part of the plan not shown here for the parent drop off in the main parking lot. That could be part of the response.
Yeah, I don't think we're showing the entire drawing here. I think we in fact we were talking about yesterday, and then we're talking about traffic mobility recently. I think that's why it's very important. I think previously we have a conversation with this committee about the importance of getting a pedestrian access from South Main Street so that the kids don't have to walk all the way down to the end at the intersection and walk back up to the building. So it's that in terms of land acquisition, that's probably our first priority to get that, whether it's easement or whatever it is. And again, I don't want to talk too much about it, but at the same time, we are looking very seriously about a access point. The other thing is the parent drop-off loop. You're right. I mean, because the bus loop, the 1 mile radius that we talk about, most of the kids are coming here, not taking the buses. So it becomes walking and also parent drop off. So we are looking at estimating how many kids, what's a reasonable distance for kids to walk, whether it's 3 blocks, 4 blocks, 2 blocks, whatever. So there's different method of estimating. We are looking at Jefferson School and Tracy School as two, because they're in urban area, multifamily housing or two family houses and stuff like that. So they are two schools, neighborhood school that has the higher comparability to this school, but this is even more dense because it's a multifamily neighborhood. So we're looking at trying to project how many kids are going to walk to school, and rainy day is going to be a different thing too. There's more people, more parents dropping off, right? So I think all of that we are looking at. I think we look at the loop that we have on the bottom. We counted the potential we can stack about 30 to 35 cars in that loop, which is substantial, but at the same time, it all depends how many parents are dropping off and stuff like that. So we are fully aware of those concerns. And I mean, a lot of schools, most of the schools in the community, cars end up in the street, but here, because the configuration of the intersection and stuff, that is really difficult to accommodate. So we are looking at what flexibility we have beyond this property.
And yeah, because they'll also, even you saying that, I just like envision the backup that it would do, if especially with a lot of them being drop-offs. Is there any way to have road, or I don't know how to explain this, but incentivizing in the way we have people come in, so that you just said multifamily. So if we have people that are what's it called, like carpooling, like a carpool lane for express access or something. So we kind of like try to minimize, because we may have several kids coming from one home, from one unit. Not sure. Just wondering if that was even a possibility. Would that work? Is that makes no sense? What do you think about that?
I think I think the staff, the design team, as well as me, as staff to the city, we're not here to, I don't mean it this way, it may not come out right, but I'm gonna just say this. I think our estimating how many people drive to school, it's an estimate. There's no true, it's like, but I think my goal and the team's goal is to do our best to project. Not so much we want to make the number low or high or any way we can. I think we're going to try to do as realistic and true to our efforts as possible, so that we can see how much we need to provide and what we can provide. We understand that morning drop off 30 cars, it's a very reasonable number because car flows through. I mean, you stop and go, and we provide bypass lane, and we're looking at all the traffic flow in the parking lot to maximize efficiency. The better we make the parking lot efficient for parent drop off, creates more ability, more desire for parents to bring the car into the property and drop the kids off instead of trying to drop it off on the street somewhere, right?
No, yeah, of course.
So it is we are very sensitive to those, and we figure 30 plus cost, as long as it flows well, it will do it. Again, we are working, in fact, these are conversations we have this week, actually, to see what we need to improve the lane movement, width of the lanes, and all that stuff we're looking at very closely. And we are getting engaged with traffic mobility to get their perspective. Well, we have a traffic consultant working on this right now, but we want to have more diverse knowledge, as well as what's her name from Joanna from Board of Education, who's in charge of the buses and transportation. Her input about how other school works and doesn't work, and she's part of our meeting and conversation to see how we can accommodate this issue, because having not unable to do this is a big problem. So we are doing everything we can to project and anticipate. Afternoon is somewhat kind of interesting number too, because pickup is most school has problem with pickup, because when you do have a problem, parents come earlier and parks their cars in the drive, which is that's what they do, right? Right, and then how many cars can we accommodate we can do about 35 here and a little bit on the parking lot. So it's very challenging, but at the same time, it's because this is a neighborhood school, it's all an urban school. I think that there's going to be a robust after-school program here. So typically, for whatever reason, let's say you anticipate 300 cars. I know I'm not making this up. Don't quote me on this. 300 cars drop off in the morning, but when pick up at 2:30, whatever it is, you may only get 150 cars floating through the parking lot because kids are leaving at 5:30 and stuff like that, right? Or between 2:30 to 5:30. So we have to kind of project what happens other schools. Like again, the two sample school we're looking at is Jefferson, because it's near urban area, and also Tracy, where there's two family houses around. The third one we are thinking about is Narrowmake, but at the same time, Narrowmake is more of a single family residence within the walking distance. So I think the primary sampling we're doing, it's the Jefferson and Tracy. So we recognize those interesting drop off and pick up scenarios that how to estimate it. It's a very challenging thing. There's no right or wrong, but we got to do our best to come up with a number that we feel that we can accommodate, as well as the real to it, because we don't want a problem after we build it, because that's even more difficult to resolve.
Now, lastly on what you said, because and this doesn't have to come now, it may go into your conversations tomorrow or later. There is a particular number of capacity for the school. It's a lottery school. So there is a number, that it's going to be the amount of children the school can hold. So can that help the thought process of how this is going to work? How many buses will really come? How many walkers will come? Because it's not like it's going to have the amount of children that Tracy or the other school has. So does that help too, knowing that there's a maximum of number of children here? So
yeah, there's a maximum.
Help in the estimations of what exactly we need.
So when we do look at this, we look at proportions, right? There's different method of calculating. I don't know all of this, but I look at it very common sense approach. This is the biggest elementary school we have in the system, with 600 maximum. This is a maximum of 682 kids. So we're probably looking at, we probably fill this probably, I don't know how we're gonna fill it. I don't know.
Oh, that's
But anyway, right, but maximum capacity 682. But meanwhile, the other school is probably 450. So
okay.
but
I've heard that differently. Okay, keep going. I'm sorry.
that's okay. So I think when we look at like, we have to look at it, you know, there's national standards and stuff, but I'm trying to get away from the national standard because it may not apply here, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, different type of neighborhood, different type of users, different type of after school care that we provide in this area kind of thing. So I think there's very different methodology to calculate, and but that I think I want to use Jefferson and Tracy again. I know I'm repeating myself a little bit, but that's a sampling so that we say for 400 and let's say 450 kids. I think Jeff is actually more than 450 right now, but we want to figure out how many kids are actually, how many families actually driving their kids, and like you said, there's certain. I think when it's higher density neighborhood, the tendency to a carpool is higher because you know what. You know, if I live in this house, Johnny and Jimmy next door, they can all jump in the car because they're closer together. When it's like a neighborhood, a residential, is a single family house further apart, they may not know their neighbor as well. But when a neighborhood that kids are playing together, close together, it's you know, it's a possibility. Somebody said, I'm gonna bring my kids there, and then the neighbors, which is right next door, will jump in the car and go together. So I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios. We have to look at all of those. Not to make the number higher, lower, but I think it's really important for us to get as real as we can to these numbers so we can design it and address it to the best of our ability. So there's no perfect solution, but we recognize all these issues. So I think that's the most important part, so to come up with solutions.
Thank you.
We will have more information for everybody in the next couple of months, kind of thing. We are working with traffic and mobility, and acquisition of property along South Main Street is important because potential we can provide some parking. Depends how the railroad spur line area is. I don't want to go into too much about it, but I think we are looking at how there's other options we may have beyond the limit of this property.
All right, Nicole, you had your hand up before. Did you want to say something?
I did, but I'll ask my question offline.
Okay. All right. Alan, thank you. Is there anything else you want to add to this? Because it's getting late.
No, I mean, if any committee member, any council members, I'm happy to, you know, just call me up. We can set a time. We can go through a little more detail. Some of these conversations get very complicated and very specific. But I think it's all of this is continuing to evolve, and I think that's the main reason why we come to land use every month, so to update everybody, and also at the same time, the council member can input on this, so there's more dialogue. But again, you know, we have done it before. I think me and Nicole met together on Norwalk High School, and Jan. We got together and talked about some certain item that's a little more. Of a little more interest to them. So, you know, email me, and, you know, anytime we get together and we can get into some of these specifics. Just like when we talk about 98 South Main Street before, I think there's more discussion to have. If again, I think it was Nicole, right? You just let me know, and then I think I can provide you additional information regarding AmeriCare, what they do, and how that building fits or not fits into their programming.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Alan. I mean, I know you're working with so many projects, and there's very complicated and a lot of moving parts. So I appreciate the update, and please, everybody, take Alan up on his offers.
Yeah. Tom takes me up all the time.
I bug him all the time. So you guys might as well do the same. All right. Anything else? Okay. Seeing none, I'll just call for motion to adjourn. Anyone? Mr. Hulaman, all in favor? Assume that's an aye.
I can't do it here, right?
What's that? You can't.
I can't do it here.
Listen, thank you guys very much. Appreciate it as always.
Thank
Alan.
you.
Let's thank Mike and Dan. Have a good night, everyone.